Hello, everyone, and welcome to day two of the NAB show and day two of the Creator Lab. We have a full day of amazing content. We've got everything from media playbooks, map making, reinvented. I love maps. This is a session I'm really looking forward to. The power of great audio. You may not know it, but in many ways, music and audio can be more important than so many other things you do in your productions. The science of engagement, production quality that moves the needle, and we close with a party from 5 to 6 right here, sponsored by Black Magic, or you can come and meet the speakers, meet the other people who are here at the Creator Lab, and just have a great time relaxing a little bit with everybody right here. So with that said, I want to kick off this first session. And this, if you've ever heard of a power session, this is a power session. We have some of the most powerful people at this emerging world of the creator economy and the traditional media economy who may have started in the creator space, but are building amazing things in both areas. So before we get started on that, I just also want to say we have all these exhibitors out here. If you have not seen them, go talk to them. If you're a creator, you're building in the creator business, building in media, everybody has interesting stuff out there. So for this next session, creators are now collaborating with broadcasters. Streaming platforms are coming in and paying for back catalogs. They're producing, they're distributing, they're creating. Creators have arrived on the global media stage. And in many ways, the creator economy is the media economy. But how are media companies integrating these creator-led formats into their existing production environments? That is what we're going to find out next. So it's the new media playbook for creators. I am so excited to have all four of these people on stage. Our moderator, RJ Larice, is the president of 16th. RJ's amazing. We work together at Paramount. Matthew Patrick, creator at Orbit Media. You may know him as the former creator of Game Theorist, but that is just a theory. Scott Brown, CEO of Second Rodeo Productions, was at Mr. Beast, doing micro dramas now. I have a one-on-one with him later this afternoon, so you're going to want to be here for that. And Adam Westcott, who has managed so many creators and is now the CEO and founder of Mind Chatter Media, building great productions with creators. So with that said, I'm going to shut up. RJ, the stage is yours. Big round of applause for these guys.
I love this topic. I previously was in the traditional media space. I've been in the creator economy space for over a decade now, and I've seen it on both sides. And I could not be happier to have the panelists here to have this conversation who have so much experience in a lot of different places of this side of media and this emerging side of media. So we're going to start first off, and let's go one by one, give an introduction, give it about 90 seconds per person.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Scott Brown. I'm the CEO and I'm also a writer-director of Second Rodeo Productions. Second Rodeo Productions services the intersection of legacy and digital entertainment with a focus on that scripted convergence that's happening, especially micro dramas. We identified the sector early and have made two notable series. Our first series, The Diamond Rose, really sought to elevate the format of micro dramas. And our second series, which just came out on Friday, is a musical micro drama that stars a couple different creators, including Hannah Stocking as our antagonist. And really what we're focused on is how can the intersection of the creator economy and legacy media really serve not only audiences, but all the people involved in ways that people respond to.
And then shameless plug, what's it called and where do you find it?
So it's called Playback, and you find it on the My Drama app, wherever on all app stores.
Hashtag ad. Next up, Matthew Patrick.
Hey, I'm Matt Patrick, better known online as Matt Pat. And for the better part of 13 years, I was YouTube's biggest nerd. I created a show called Game Theory, most famously, where we fused, I got one in the front, where we fused science and education with pop culture topics like, if you were to price out Minecraft's diamond armor, what would it actually cost in real life? So you learn stuff and you talk about nerdy stuff along the way, which is super fun. In total, we amassed about 9 billion total views and 50 million subscribers across our network of theory channels. And then in 2022, we sold the operation and in the process became one of the largest digital media YouTube first brands to make a transition like that. And then 2 years after that, we transitioned hosting duties. So now I am blissfully retired. And which is great. I'm relaxing, but also taking those 13 years of experience in online media and mixing that with the world of traditional entertainment. So we're working with traditional production companies to do some really exciting stuff that blends those two worlds together. We're also taking on Congress Last July, we helped launch the Creator Economy Caucus, where we are helping to educate lawmakers about the world of the online creator ecosystem, because we're all small businesses, not just a bunch of people working in our basements, and they do not understand that. And so, as the front lines of media nowadays, we need to help educate them as they're being asked more and more to make decisions about this space. So that's what we're up to these days.
Amazing. And Mr. Adam Westcott.
Hi, I'm working to retire like MapPad. I've been working with creators long before they were called creators, since 2006, 2007. I've worked on every iteration of YouTube Originals, Facebook Watch, Snap Discover, IG Reels. I co-founded and helped sell a company called Select Management Group to propagate media. And now my company, Mind Chatter Media, specializes in originals driven by creators. We're best known for Sideline, which is our movie franchise on Tubi, starring TikTok star Noah Beck, who's the new star of Baywatch on Fox. And we are about to announce, I was hoping there'd be some stuff to share today, but a slate of fully financed, unscripted and scripted next month, all with creators.
So when Jim said powerhouse, he was correct. Everybody here is at the intersection of traditional and also creator. So first question, we're just going to rip the Band-Aid off. Do you think that traditional media and creators are melding into one another? And do you think that they need each other, or do they remain separate entities? I'd love your thoughts, and let's start first off with you, Scott.
I mean, yeah, I think that they've been merging for a long time, and it's just really accelerating, right? Like, one of the things about having Hannah Stocking in our new series is, she brings notoriety, she brings an audience that is excited to see her act in different roles. That's one of the things she said at our premiere that we had last week, is it was really fun for her to play a villain and to showcase other sides of her talent that she hasn't always had the opportunity to. And I think that, look, I mean, any notable name it can be a tool for marketing, it can be a tool to get the shows out there, and it just makes a lot of sense that creators would be a part of this. So it's accelerating faster and faster, but I think they can really serve each other as long as they find common ground in these new formats.
Matt?
Well, and actually, I want to piggyback off of what you just said there, that finding common ground. I think that it's a very mutually beneficial relationship, right? Creators understand their audiences, they understand these online platforms in ways that traditional media just does not at this point in time, right? I don't know if it's because they have refused to engage in that world, or, don't find it like suited to their sensibilities. But in all of our years of experience, the world of online fandoms and cultures and how we talk and communicate and the language that we use just does not resonate with them, right? So creators bringing that to the table are able to bridge that gap. But on the converse side, traditional media has decades, hundreds of years worth of experience in production, in pipelines, in making systems that create some of the greatest works that humankind has ever made, right? And so at this pivotal crossroads right now, that merging moment, that collaborative set is so valuable to both sides of that equation that, that's why I think panels like this are so important, why conversations like this are so valuable, because together it's better than the sum of its parts.
Yep. Adam?
Yeah, I think all of these things, we've definitely come a long way. The fact that Netflix is announcing creator deals, I mean, I would not have said that 2 to 3 years ago. I think it's all becoming one and the same. I think the biggest differentiator that most people don't really recognize because of the blur between creators and influencers, you have a massive amount of people who work as influencer marketing. They do brand deals, and that's what they like doing and they're happy doing it. And then you have creators who are interested in doing much more 360, media ventures and acting and publishing and touring and all the things. And I think that's what we've really started to identify. And it's okay, how do we take those top creators that have those passion, ability, interest, and then find the right potential players on the traditional side? Because I will say what the traditional side brings to the table is financing, which, for creators, they mostly self-finance all of their YouTube social videos. So to find a partnership that's both collaborative but has potential upside for both parties, that's the real goal now.
Now, I think I worked with all of you when I was on the traditional media side in different ways. And what I can tell you is the truth, which is traditional media is broken in terms of a development process in a lot of ways. The example that I can give is we did a deal with a massive creator who had a massive moment to do a scripted series around it. It took 8 months to do the deal. By the time the 8 months was done, no one would have cared about that specific thing. Audiences moved on. And so, working with these companies, have you seen that deficit or other sorts of deficits that feel broken? And where can creators help traditional media companies out with things like speed and taking a little bit more risk?
I mean, I think, look, the way that I think of everything when it comes to digital is that digital really is its own medium. And uh, especially when it comes to mobile first entertainment, I think we're talking about a new medium and we're really early to that medium, right? So any new medium, there's a time, if you look at the history of television, you look at the history of film, you look at the history of anything, there's a time when the medium first has to really understand its relationship to technology and how it's being brought to audiences. And then that medium has to find its cinematic voice, its storytelling voice. It has to find its stars, and then it has to find its relationship ultimately to the audience. And it's really, really early in that process. But what I think, I worked in the creator economy my whole career, and what I think creators are so good at is understanding where the audience is and meeting them there, right? That is an extraordinary skill that creators have. And I think that now, especially as I've had certain meetings across the traditional entertainment landscape, they are really, those legacy companies understand that, like you said, they have to move faster. They have to understand the immediacy of the format. They have to understand that the audiences want things right away and they want things in a specific way. And if you don't listen to creators who I think know it the best, I think you end up with things, cautionary tales like Quibi and all these other things that don't work. And, I know we've talked it to death, but it shows what happens when you don't meet the audience where they are. And I think things like that now we understand that we have to.
Well, I also think you bring up the timelines, right?
Yeah.
And how slow it is to move things, right? And since my retirement from the channels, one of the things that's been the hardest adjustment for me to make is working on other people's timelines.
Yep.
And when I mean other people's timelines, I'm going from, hey, I can churn out 12 videos a week, 4 of which take 100 man hours each. So 4 of the main channel videos were pumped out and we had that, and we were able to execute on that schedule week in, week out, 52 weeks a year for the better part of like the last 5 years of us doing it, right? And now, when I'm looking to work with traditional production companies, or I'm looking to, work with, we're also doing some work in the theater space. We produced in Broadway in the West End. We have a show that'll be coming up in short order. But again, the time, like even to get a response on something as simple as like a contract or red lines or something like that, it's weeks away. And again, like you mentioned, that fandom, that enthusiasm that audiences have to see that IP translated, or to see, the next big installment in the conversation that's happening between creator, IP, and audience, that's slowly dying, that's fizzling away. And, you know, all that time, all that money that is wasted then when that product finally goes to market and the audience has moved on. Like creators, because they're so immediate and so reactionary in the moment, they're able to capitalize off of those fandoms quickly and efficiently. But that timeline gap is just so difficult to overcome. And you see people starting to figure that out, but it's like turning the Titanic in a lot of ways.
I think the only teams within traditional media companies that move as nimbly as creators are the people on social teams that have to be that way. But outside of that, it's like, how can we make this the slowest, most grueling process possible?
Well, and
And spend a lot of money doing it.
the only thing I'll add, which always infuriates me when I get calls from very senior executives, like showrunners and head of originals, that they want to work with creators. Do you know creators? Have you spent time on TikTok? Have you spent time on Instagram? And they just don't take the time to really learn. And we don't have time for that anymore. It's figure it out or don't, because we're already doing it.
No, I mean, I've watched this happen so many times where they make a creator host a show. I don't know if I should go into examples, but like they had Ariel Vandenberg host Love Island when it was on CBS, and she stopped posting the same way. So by the time the show came out a year later after she was announced, it wasn't like a creator was hosting it anymore. It was like she was a host. So you weren't getting the same social following. We had a similar thing on a scripted project at Nickelodeon where the creator got a scripted deal with us and stopped posting entirely. And that's part of the reason why we hired them. So it was a long conversation to get it back in that place.
A great other example from one that we've been talking about a lot is the back rooms. So the back rooms, massively viral, sensational hit from I think like 3-4 years ago, And A24 smartly picked it up with Kane Pixels, one of the smartest young directors in the creator space, and his channel goes dead for like the better part of 2 years when it was the largest, most viral series. Every single video that he did would hit 10, 20 million views a pop. But in the lead up to this movie, over the course of the 2 years of development, complete radio silence from anything until finally the marketing picks up now. And luckily, they've been able to kind of reignite that fire. But I just look at kind of the lost potential of what it could have been if that momentum had been able to allow to be fostered during that 2 year period and really tell the story of building the hype up for that kind of pinnacle moment of the movie's mainstream release.
I do think we're starting to solve for that a little bit, though, because a lot of top creators now have in-house teams and operations. So you look at a Darman and Mr. Beast, the obvious examples, but then you have smaller creators like Zach Justice that have factories that they're just cranking out content so that they can take the time to go and explore other bigger opportunities that may take up some of their time, but they still know, where the money's made, and they keep their foundation going while they're off pursuing passions and diversified revenue opportunities.
Well, a lot of time though too, it's a contractual thing, right? Where a lot of the conversations we've had is like, hey, we're picking up this IP that's popular with you, and because now we as a traditional company have picked up that IP, you're no longer allowed to kind of do things with it in your own sphere because we want to be protective over it. And I think now I think companies are starting to learn very slowly the importance of letting the creators still have access to that platform and that IP that they've created, so that way it can build hype and the traditional media company can then capitalize off of it when it eventually releases.
Well, so studios partnering with creators, it's happening now. And I've watched a bunch of different versions of it, and I think people here have too. Do you think that they're actually doing the right thing and investing in creator content? Or do you think a lot of times the studios are using these creator deals to help market other parts of their business in different ways?
I can hop in real quickly on that one, which is, I think some are doing it right and some are doing it wrong. I think, you look at, I think there's a really good tale of two movies. Like, take an example. So the Minecraft movie had a bunch of creator cameos in it, and it's a blink and you miss it moment where they're all kind of standing huddled together. No one really has anything to say, and the scene moves on, right? And it's like, we did it. Look, they should want to promote it because they're in a movie, but it's kind of the most surface level of possible kind of like nods of the cap to that community, right? When you could have integrated them more meaningfully into the story as a cameo, things like that. I was fortunate enough to work with Blumhouse on the Five Nights at Freddy's movies, where they specifically worked in lines and references to my catchphrase. So that way, all the online stuff that we're known for. So that way the audiences had that little Easter egg, that nugget, and the amount of earned media that franchise got off of people sharing clips of theaters reactions to my line, to that cameo, to that surprise moment was, millions upon millions of views across socials, which again is just earned media, extra marketing for that budget. And so it's one of those things where there are right and wrong ways to do it. It's not just let me rub an influencer on it, and let me actually meaningfully think about who they are, what value they're bringing to the project. So that way we're getting the most out of that collaboration rather than just, hey, be another source of social posts and marketing for this thing that we're working on.
Well, because I think a lot of times producers and executives think that their project is a little elite, and they look at creators and think, oh, well, they're not as elite, so we're just going to throw them in. So it's amazing when you see people, creatives, producers, embracing that and then working that in. I mean, yes.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's so important, right? Like, you have to, as just as much as you celebrate your cast and all of your performers, you have to celebrate the creators because they're a part of your cast, or however they're a part of your show. Hearing this conversation too, it's like, I think we're in a time right now where, I don't know exactly why this happens, but it seems like the press wants to make every example of a creator being involved with a larger property like the final verdict on creators in traditional media.
Exactly.
When, as you've said so correctly, like it's a case, it's going to be case by case. It's the history of any, medium is that you have to collect a lot of data, right? So, I say this a lot, but like, we're just getting started. This is very, very early. And finally, as at least the shape of common ground is forming. And I think that's where we're going to really start to see really wonderful relationships happening.
We just need more turns at bat. And I think
Yes.
Matt's exactly right. There's good examples and they're bad examples. I'm a bit biased, but so Tubi, which is a Fox company, they've been very aggressive in the creator space. They bring them over through a licensing model and are fairly loose with some of their sort of contractual terms. And then in success, they'll double down on those creators with exclusives on content. And then also they have a traditional originals arm, which creators can also work with, which is Sideline with Noah. One that I'm like interested to see what they're going to do because they are so legacy is Lionsgate. And we have to remember, like, sure, they're doing it to make announcements, but the value of the Lionsgate library far, far, far outweighs any new startup creator business. So we'll have to see what they're able to do with it.
Well, it's interesting because I see traditional companies all the time spend tens of millions, $100 million on movies that some of them just don't work. And yet you don't see that sort of backing for a creator that has that built-in audience. Why do you think that traditional companies are not being more bullish in this way? Especially when it comes to theatrical.
I mean, for me, I think a lot of it comes from a sense of pride. I think you meant, I forget who mentioned it. I think it was one of you two earlier, that idea of it seems lesser. The creator work feels lesser, right? It is leaner, it's rawer, it's not necessarily pretty in a lot of cases. I mean, the production values have skyrocketed over the years, right? But you're still looking at like single personalities in front of cameras, vlogging to audiences or simple cutouts, ripping off like photos with watermarks still on them, things like that. It's that like homegrown, homespun foundation that really builds the creator trust, but also is so against kind of the sensibilities of traditional media creators, movies with beautiful cinematography, beautiful photography, lighting and all this stuff, right? So I think there's a sense of pride, a sense of ownership, and a sense of not wanting to like look down on, or like not wanting to kind of meet in the middle in order to kind of like lessen what the product they're making. And you've had that for the longest time, right? Theater people are snobs to movies, and movies historically have been snobs to TV, and TV is snobs to digital video. And so like this has been going on, and even within theater, opera people are snobs to like musical theater people. So like through the history of media, you've always had this kind of like sense of like, I am greater, I am better. Oh, look at this lesser media product that's been produced. And you either learn to adapt, you learn to collaborate, or you die, or hope that your patrons live on and support your medium from there until the end of time.
So your takeaway from today is don't be a snob. I mean, that'll get creators in movies, so don't do it.
The proof is where the eyeballs are, and the best buyer or person who has green light power is someone with a 13 to 24-year-old child who actually is engaged and knows where it's going.
We talked about this a little bit. You mentioned Netflix and the deals that they're doing, which are very cool. I actually think that new Paramount under the Ellison regime will probably invest a lot of money in creators. I see that for their future, which is exciting. Who else, if anybody, is doing the creator content well, beyond brand deals, beyond that sort of thing? Who's doing it the best right now?
I have a theory that because of
a theory.
If you steal it, then I need to be at least tagged.
I don't own it anymore. Someone else's at this point.
Adam Westcott theorist.
That because of Tubi via Fox and Netflix now moving aggressively into the creator space, that YouTube will have to counteract and do some version of originals again with financing, because the missing component is come over here, we're offering you money to do something you want to do, all the while you still have to feed the beast on all of your accounts. But just the very fact that if you go to the Netflix homepage right now, the marquee is the podcast. It's Jake Shane. That's a creator. So that's where it's all going. And I think, we'll just see more creators because they've already started to do it via podcasts.
It's interesting on the YouTube note because I bluntly asked somebody over there if this was coming, and they were like, absolutely not. We will never do that again. And I'm like, we'll see.
Their product and their advertising, and they are doing it. They're doing it in the sports vertical. So just you wait. It'll come back around, because you have Michelle Carre, which is an incredible example.
Yes.
Give the girl an Emmy. we need 100 more of those. To sell advertising, you can't just show Rhett and Link and Michelle Carré every day.
Her series right now is so good, and she
Incredible, yeah.
deserves all of it. It's amazing. Now we're going to do some pointed questions. So Matthew, I'm going to start with you. Your time always has been able to be pulled in a million different directions. We worked together on things at Nickelodeon when I was there, and you stripped yourself away because you had this really nice system where you could get the work done and then devote time to these projects. How do you decide now how to spend your time, how to really, like, your audience trusts you, so when you go do something, you're also having to have their trust on your shoulders? And then in terms of investment, you're investing time, but also social posts and things like that that you'd normally charge for. But when you're doing these larger projects, like, you're going to hopefully promote those projects more. So how do you make these decisions now?
I mean, I think you just said it, right? Which is, what is the audience going to think that's cool? What is valuable to them, right? It is, what is a learning opportunity for me?
Yep.
What is kind of a step up to my brand, or a smart step in kind of my journey as a creator, as a thought leader, as, someone who is a professional in this space? And then what does it make sense to bring the audience along for at this point, right? I think a lot of times it's easy for creators to kind of get lost in their own minds, in their own businesses, and lose track of the people who's on the other end, who are the consumers of your product, right? What is the value that they're getting from watching a video or engaging with a project, right? You mentioned the social posts. If I dread having to social post about a project that I'm working on, I probably shouldn't be doing that project, right? Because then you're just doing it for the bottom line. You're doing it for the dollars and the paycheck. But if you're actively excited about sharing it with your audience and wanting to make it succeed, then that's not really work, right? And fortunately, because of the way kind of my growth with the channels and my career has gone at this point, is I'm able to pick and choose the coolest, most educational, valuable projects for me and for the audience. And that's a very fortunate position to be in at this point.
And you have an exciting announcement that you can't really fully talk about yet, but what did you just do and why did you decide to do it?
Yeah, so we've entered into a multi-picture movie deal with one of the traditional film companies out there
Huge.
that, yeah, shall remain nameless for now, just because, it's
TBD.
everyone's always waiting for the big announcements, right? But it's super exciting. And it's, again, giving me that opportunity to take things that the audience are excited about, the things that are relevant to the online community, the fandom, IP that we've kind of experienced together, and take it to the next level and tell new stories with it and evolve kind of the medium and form that bridge in ways that they're going to be excited about, but is also going to be accessible to mainstream audiences. And I think that that's the other side of it, is if you just super serve fandom from online, that's great. And you can do that and you can find success with that, but you're really missing out on being able to broaden those IP, those ideas outward to the general audience who is interested in it, but don't know how to enter into that world. And one of the things that I always prided myself on, and what the Theorist channels really excelled at, was taking complicated ideas or niche ideas, IP, science, whatever it was, and making it more mainstream.
Mhm.
And so through this deal that we're doing with this movie company, what we're hoping to do is take some of those kind of native grown online digital IP and broaden them outward to a mainstream audience who's going to be really excited about the stories that we have to tell.
Yep. And then Scott, on your end, microdrama is like the buzzword of now, obviously. Do you think this is just a fad, or do you think that this is here to stay in a lot of ways, and why or why not?
I think that it's the beginning of something big, right? I think that microdramas represent a bit of an iceberg. And if you contextualize it within the larger scripted digital boom that we're seeing with Darman and Alan Chickenshaw and the group chat and shit and so many other channels that don't get really talked about, but are doing 100,000 views every single video on scripted things for reasons that I'm not fully sure of yet, but is undeniable, right? Like, scripted is here in digital medium, and microdramas represent the first real breakthrough of format, right? And I think when you look at microdramas, my own real belief is that TikTok and YouTube Shorts has habituated our brains to expect the sensation of storytelling immediately and every single minute. Now, most TV shows and most films don't do that right away. They introduce you to the characters and the world, and then maybe by like minute 10, you're starting to receive that kind of similar cadence. what we're seeing with micro dramas really is just an early servicing of that audience behavior. And so it's really just the beginning of something. It's going to change a lot, but it is one of the reasons why when I recognized it 2 years ago, I so aggressively built inside of it was I was like, finally, a non-outlier based scripted format that I can get behind where people are writing six-figure checks to, make, they're different, but make movies, right? The thing that I love doing. And that's what got me so excited about it. And so my answer is it's early and it's going to evolve, but it's here to stay in the larger phenomenon.
Amazing. And then Adam, you've worked in literally every side of the creator economy that could be possible. What are you doing right now in this moment? And what are you most excited about in the future of the creator economy?
It's a broad question. I can answer it all. Woo! Well, as a manager, it's a commission-based business. It's a service business. And the foundation of that is the brand endorsements that I touched on earlier. But you're also in the trenches with the creator. So you have that built-in relationship to work with them to develop new things, whether it's product ventures or IP. What I'm most focused on now is partnering with creators to develop the things that not just they're interested in, but that they're capable of, passionate for, and willing to put in the work. So, I hate to keep using the sideline to Noah example, but Noah took 2 years of acting class with an acting coach before we went to camera. So it's understanding that creators are willing to do it, not just do it because they have the opportunity in front of them. And I do want to add to Scott's point about the micro dramas. I've been trying to train myself to say micro series or vertical shorts because micro dramas kind of make us think of real shorts and my drama, which is great and a great starting point. But what's most interesting is the fact that the audience has adopted the vertical medium for 1 to 2 minute scripted episodes. And so now Disney's playing in it. I'm doing young adult, I'm doing thriller, true crime, and horror. So I think we're going to see people push the boundaries with quality. And with genre. And then the last thing I'll say on the unscripted side of our slate, what I'm most interested in is YouTube as the connected TV and longer form episodes. My Michelle Carre point earlier. So we're doing a game show. We're doing a sports panel a la TPPN, which you saw sold to OpenAI last week. So the opportunity to self-produce and independently figure out on YouTube is only growing stronger. The economics to do traditional level budgets are not fully there. So that's where companies like myself, being independent, we operate lean and mean until we've proven success. And the creators, being our partners, participate in that upside.
Cool. And then we're wrapping up. So really, really, really quickly, I'm going to do 3 rapid fire questions, but you've got to give like quick answers. What's worse, the algorithm or a studio executive?
I've never worked for a studio executive, so I don't have an answer there yet.
Got it?
Same. I haven't worked for a studio executive, but the algorithm's pretty unforgiving.
Got it?
They're both tumultuous.
Got it? Best distribution channel right now?
YouTube.
YouTube.
Got it? And then last question is, what creator should take over a Hollywood studio to make them more successful?
That's tough.
Great question.
Thank you. Okay.
I volunteer as tribute.
Good. He's volunteering as tribute. Amazing.
I love Michelle Carre. I think is so incredible at what she does.
She is.
She really understands a lot.
Yep. And Adam, last question.
I mean, I'm going to say Michelle Carre, Matt. I think creators that have built businesses and understand operations, people management, original IP, exploiting that IP, franchising, it's entrepreneurial. And my last point, I know we're out of time. Creators now versus the creators I worked with 10 plus years ago are coming into this as a career. They have Mr. Beast as the blueprint. So they are building businesses. They're not just going viral and turning that into a career.
Yeah, and real quick, the last thing I'll say too is programming is the one thing that people overlook at this point.
Yes.
In this digital media age, it's a conversation. And so like I know the hits and misses that Blumhouse has had or as Marvel has had, and the audience knows that too. And so just like creators have to earn the trust of the audience, so too media companies have to earn the trust of the audience, and that all relates to programming. Where they hits, where they misses, or can I trust them to deliver a good story? If so, I'm going to be there for their next one.
Amazing. Well, thank you to all of our incredible panelists. Thank you for attending. And if you've got questions for any of the panelists, we're going to be over in the lounge area over there if you've got anything direct to ask. Thank you all so much and have a good rest of your NAB.
And thanks, RJ.
All right. Thank you, guys. That was amazing. What do you guys think? Each one of these guys could take over a Hollywood studio in a minute and build great success. Thank you guys very much.